My name is Willy Bolander. I study influence, persuasion, and leadership in selling and sales management, and I teach people how to sell. In this podcast, we'll talk to some of the world's top sales leaders and see what we can learn from them. Welcome to the Sales Lab. All right. Well, we are here with Zach DeGroff. Did I say it right?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Vice President of Sales from Rubber and Gasket Company of America, or RGA, as you can see behind him. And thank you for joining us today, Zach.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
There's a number of things we probably want to talk about, but let's start with who you are, where you came from, how you got to where you are now. Just give us the story, if you would.
Sure. Yeah, I started college, I think, thinking I wanted to be in the logistics industry. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, so FedEx is the company that sort of runs Memphis. So I figured I was going to be a logistics transportation person in the future. So started off at the University of Tennessee, and figured if I'm going to work for FedEx, I better get back to Memphis and graduate from the university that they support the most. So came back, ended up changing my major to business management. And so after college, got into the logistics industry and found out it's probably the only job I've ever hated. So it was not for me. And I wish I would have knew that, long before I started my college career. And I got to RGA kind of just on a job posting. I disliked my current job so much that I thought, what the heck, let's try this. And so glad I did. I've been here now for going on 19 years. So it's been a fantastic career move for me.
This content is brought to you by the TSL Showdown. That's the Technical, Industrial, and Engineering Student Sales Showdown, hosted right here at Texas A&M University. We have over 200 engineering students taking sales classes every semester and a growing minor program in technical sales. These students are smart enough for STEM and savvy enough for sales, and the TIES Showdown allows them to demonstrate their selling skills in a role-play competition where industry partners, like you, serve as judges and provide them coaching feedback. If you're hiring for technical, industrial, or engineering sales roles anytime in the next couple of years, this is an event you can't miss. You can learn more at tx.ag/TIES. That's tx.ag/TIES. Hope you can join us. Nice. Well, so let me probe on that a little bit. What was it that didn't fit well with you in the logistics space?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at job titles can be deceiving, and I think the way that they word a job can be deceiving. And so I probably didn't ask enough questions about what does an operations manager in training entail. And I was basically a dispatcher, and was completely caught off guard when I started my job. So, I thought I was going to go into kind of more of the operations of the whole location, which included a truck shop, repairs. There were dispatchers, but it was not. I was pretty much just going to be a dispatcher, and so it's an interesting job. I know people love it. I had friends that loved it. It was just personally not for me, and I found out pretty quickly and moved on. So,
okay. And what role did you start in at RGA?
I was just a shop fabricator. I was, fresh out of college for the most part. I'd only stayed at the transportation company for 3 months. So just long enough to sort of get a taste of the real world. And then at RGA, I started just as a shop fabricator, which is our entry-level position, basically in the company. Come in as a shop fabricator, learn how we fabricate, what we stock, how we do it. And then I moved up from there.
Okay. And maybe that's a good cue that I should ask. What is it that you make? What is it that you sell? Tell us about RGA.
Yeah, RGA is an industrial fabricator and distributor of industrial MRO, maintenance, repair, operations equipment for any kind of manufacturing facility. It can be food, it can be steel manufacturing, it could be auto parts. So what we do is we specialize in a couple areas: rubber and hydraulic hose, metal hose, conveyor belting, and then any kind of sealing products like gaskets, O-rings, things like that. So those are our specialties. We get into quite a bit more. But the one thing that we do, we have 18 locations in 10 states. And our real value prop is we fabricate in each location for our local customers. So each one of our store locations covers about 150-mile radius around the stores, and we tailor to a manufacturing base that needs our products to operate the facility. If it's a ice cream facility, the milk comes in one end, our hoses, gaskets, transfer the product across the plant to where it's fabricated or where it's made, and then our conveyor belts take the packages to maybe the shipping area where it's shipped out or packaged. So we get into quite a few different areas of verticals inside of each manufacturing facility. So it keeps our salespeople very busy.
Yeah. A little bit of variety, I guess, as well.
Quite a variety. Our line sheet is pretty long. We probably should make it a little bit more. Maybe a simplified version may help, but what I tell people is we do a little bit of everything. We don't get into electrical. It's not our vertical. But it could be anything from off the shelf items to fabricated items. And then there's some things that are factory made that we would distribute from our manufacturer vendors.
Okay. And so there's the distribution element, there's the fabrication element. Why would it be important to be able to fabricate in a local market? Where does the value come from there?
Yeah, so we have many, many great competitors. And the one thing that sets us apart in that aspect is lead times, price, being competitive in a price situation. But for the most part, it's lead time. Our company is 24/7, so our customers rely on us to be able to fabricate a hose assembly, to weld a metal braided hose, to fabricate and deliver a conveyor belt in the middle of the night. And that's really where we can set ourselves apart. Local stock, local fabrication, shortens lead times. We're not waiting for things in transit. We're not waiting for someone else to fabricate them in large cities, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, Chicago. We do it in our local markets so that our customers have that confidence that maybe they don't have to keep as much on their shelves. So with just-in-time inventories, with the pressure to keep the cost lower in their inventory, they can lean on a company like RGA to come through when they need product that may normally be a longer lead time or come from farther away.
Okay. And these things you're fabricating, these are custom parts. These are new things that have never been made. They're replacement parts for things that have been discontinued and they can't buy, so they have to create. What exactly are we dealing with?
So we deal with pretty simple, just replacement parts. I have an O-ring. I need another O-ring. But where it gets kind of to your point of more technical sales is I have an O-ring, but it's not working. It's leaking. It's blowing out. It's failed. I've got contamination into my product. And so it goes a little bit of both ways. A lot of our parts, it could just be off the shelf items. It could be a bearing off the shelf. It could be just a simple part, but it also could be where we have to change it in some way to adapt to a changing process at the manufacturing facility.
Okay. And you mentioned, an ice cream manufacturing. I don't know. Do you even manufacture ice cream? A ice cream place, absolutely. A creamery. And the hoses and the things that go into that. What other context specifically
for product?
Yeah, for the types of clients you're working with.
Oh, Tyson Chicken is a big one. Nucor Steel, oil and gas. It could be any number of companies that are bringing in products, raw materials. And then on the other end of the plant, it's coming out as a finished product. So chicken is a good example. Chickens come in one side, your chicken nuggets come out the other. And so in between there, our products are conveying it through each process. So maybe it's a conveyor belt that's bringing, chicken breast through. our belts are getting it or holding it while it's sliced, maybe, or getting it scanned while it's being checked for quality issues. So there's all kinds of things. If it's we mentioned ice cream, so lots of gaskets, lots of hoses, taking it from the raw material milk, separating it from the cream, and then going through the process of creating that ice cream, bottling it or packaging it into the containers that you'd buy from the store, and then taking those containers and putting them into a larger box or case, and then shipped out. To local distribution companies or end users.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, it's not just hoses and gaskets. Then it's you're talking about any function. You use the word conveyance. Anything that's moving a product from one place to another, you're sort of involved in that.
Absolutely, could be a rubber belt, could be a metal belt, could be a plastic belt. Same thing on hoses. Could be a hydraulic hose, could be a metal braided hose for high heat applications. It could be hydraulic hose for moving for mobile equipment, for Caterpillar equipment. Could be for cranes. It could be for all sorts of on and off road trucking. So it's our customer base is pretty varied. We're not. I wouldn't say there's one market that or one industry that we are really focused on.
Okay. And so let me ask you the big question. What is technical sales from your standpoint in the context of RGA?
It's problem solving. That's what it is for us. To be a technical salesperson, I think you have to have, knowledge and experience to be able to understand what's the current problem the customer's having or the solution that they want. And then how do we put that product out there for the customer to be able to use and be successful? So I think for us, it's about problem solving. There's technical sales and maybe new application creation, but you're still undertaking the challenge of creating something that doesn't exist right now or needs to be better. So for us, especially with the breadth of products that we supply, you have to have the knowledge to be able to understand the current problem, why it's not working, and then how do we create that product that the customer needs to do whatever it is that they need to do with that product. So, for us, it's about communication and all the understanding that goes around the problems and where we need to be with the solution.
And so can you give us a very concrete example of what that problem-solving process looks like, right? Maybe don't mention the name of the company, but, a company was experiencing this, what the challenge was, how you brought the solution to bear, just kind of from start to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, our discovery part of the process is very important. Um, you know, with any current customer or prospect, discovery questions for us kind of lays out what the current situation is, maybe what the current product is, what the current vendor is, maybe what the current specs, sizes are of the product. And so, for us, it all starts with a lot of good discovery questions to be able to make sure that we understand the current state of the problem, and also what the solution is. Um, we try to dig deep on pain. Pain is a big thing for us. What's the current pain? How does that affect operations or production? The cost associated with the problem, and we move into what are you willing to pay? What kind of solution? What's the cost around that solution? Is there a budget for it? So we move through that. The budget part of it pretty quickly, but discovery and really making sure we have a solution. One thing we've talked about lately is let's provide a solution, not options. Because if we supply options, that means we really don't know what the solution really is. So we don't want to put it on the customer to say, hey, here's 3 options for you to choose. Well, if you expect me to be the expert, shouldn't I give you the solution, not options? So that's one thing we're really big on is to know the solution. We have to know all these things leading up to the current state of the problem.
That's interesting. Well, and I think there's probably a lot of marketing history and research, and that would say, okay, good, better, best option. Having some sort of a menu. Okay, if they don't want to buy this one, then you can push it. You can drop down a level, and you can still get something out of it. And I think there's wisdom in that. But I definitely
Mm.
see what you're saying. Right, the minute you do that, it's like, hey, you know we don't really know, or we know, but we're willing to sell you something that isn't going to actually be the right solution because we want to make money off of you. It's there's a little dark side to it, I
Well,
suppose.
to your point, talking about a specific instance, we had a customer in a distribution center, and so a challenge in a distribution center for conveyor belting. Let's take, it could be an Amazon, it could be a Walmart, it could be any number of distribution centers these days. The one of the most challenging applications is a very light box. So in this case, it was a phone case. So just a phone case for your iPhone, for your Android. That box doesn't weigh much, and so when you're going up an incline or down a decline, that box, because there's not much grip, will slide. And so there's a challenge in conveying it from packaging to shipping area. So had a customer that let us know they're having a problem. We go on site, we look at the application, we take measurements, we look at their current belt that they're using. We're talking about the problems, the boxes or the sizes and weights that they're having trouble moving. And so we come back and we take all that information, and um, we're coming up with a solution. And so had a newer salesperson that came back out to the customer and said, well, here I have, here's three options. This one we think will work best, and this one is another one, this another one. And the customer looked at us and said, why are you asking me to choose if you're the expert? And so, to your point, I think some people do want options, but from that kind of spurred the idea that you're right. We are the people who should know the most about it, and sometimes we assume that our customers are extremely knowledgeable on everything that's in their facility, and they know how the system all works together, but the individual components they may not be uh, you know technically savvy on. So they lean on people like us um, for a solution to a problem that they have. And so ever since that customer said that to us, it kind of hurt a little bit, stung, and you're right. This is what you should be using. This is exactly what we think will solve your problem. And it did. And he was happy. But ever since then, if we ask the questions on the front end, um, we sell a lot of import and domestic product. The big difference on those two things is that domestically made items are more expensive than import items sometimes, not all the time. So, if we ask questions around budget for a product, are you okay with paying more for a domestic product? Maybe it's higher quality, um, or maybe it's not an application that really needs a really high quality domestically made product. Maybe they're very, very price conscious on this product. And so when we ask those questions on the front end, we can zero in on where they want to be cost wise, and to make sure it does fit in their budget. So if we can do that on the front end, the solution we give fits within where we know their bracket of paying for that product would be.
Gotcha. Um, I'm just I'm thinking on the spot here. I wonder, is there a way to offer? Is there a way to do both? Sometimes there's not a way to do both. But could you say, hey, what would really solve the problem is this? If you're strapped for cash and can't make that one happen, this will get you 60% of what this will get you. It'll work, but it won't be. You'll have to replace it again in a year, or so. It's not the optimal. Or should we just drop the multiple options idea altogether?
No, I think there's absolutely a place for it. I mean, some customers want that. And I think especially when we skip steps along the way, we tend to have to do that, or maybe it's rushed, and they want an answer right now. They need to know, and sometimes it's just for budgeting purposes, but There are people, and there are times where we do have to offer two things, two solutions. Maybe there's a lead time issue. Hey, this one, what you want is it exists, but it's going to take X amount of time. There's another option that is differently priced, but it is immediately available. So that there are those scenarios where it does. We do have to have those conversations, only to just be transparent about what's available, or the timeline for the solution for the customer.
Yeah. And so, what are some of the competencies that you see, being very helpful for somebody coming into a role at a company like RGA?
I think, being inquisitive, being curious about how things are made, and how our customers operate. I think that's one of the big things that has kept this job very interesting, is that we're sort of behind the scenes on how things are made every day. And so, as it pertains to more of the outside sales role, you have to be comfortable approaching customers. Our inside sales team, they have customers coming to them all the time, phone calls, in person, emails. So they can kind of sit back and know that the customers are coming to them. For the outside sales team, you have to be comfortable going to a customer, approaching a customer, and maybe not being invited. Maybe it's more of a cold call to start the relationship, but you have to be comfortable kind of being uncomfortable. So if you can do that for our people, a willingness to learn. There's so many products that we sell. There's so many different industries that we sell into, that you would spend a career learning before you ever were 100% prepared to go out um, and talk to a peanut butter plant in the morning, and then in the afternoon, go out to a Tesla lithium plant in South Texas. So it's you have to be kind of willing to think on your feet, be flexible, but also be just very curious about learning about solutions and customers.
Yeah. And so, I think some of those things are very similar, right? I mean, the curiosity is going to fuel with the willingness to be uncomfortable, right? I mean, what is discomfort? Why would somebody go and deliberately, specifically be uncomfortable? Well, probably because they're curious, because they want to see, they know that there's something at the end of this that might be beneficial, and so they're willing to sit through it and see what comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they somebody coming into a role with RGA? Do they need to know about gaskets? Do they need some background knowledge, or can they kind of come in and learn the market from scratch?
Uh, Experience is always great, especially if it's around either technical or just sales. If it's product technical background, or if it's maybe a sales background, it kind of shortens the curve for someone to be successful. But I'll just give you a quick story about a sales intern we just had. Came in and wanted to do a sales internship with us because they weren't sure if sales was going to be what they wanted to do. And I think they had 3 semesters left in school. And so wanted to really uh, explore what does sales mean. Is I want to know if I can do this. And so the opportunity that we had was a very cold, ice cold territory at a brand new store. And so, I mentioned to them, this is going to be very hard. It's mostly all cold, which is, the hardest, I think, as far as getting started in sales. Um, it's very rewarding, but it's also extremely hard to get a territory started. So from the very beginning, I mentioned that you're going to have real world experience here during the summer, good or bad, and you're going to figure out very quickly if this is something that you enjoy, or maybe not. But either way, you're going to come away with the experience in this internship that you can take forward in college, knowing which direction you want to go. And I think it comes from my background of going into a job that I thought I wanted to do. The job title sounded like what I wanted to do, and when I got there, it was absolutely not what I thought it was going to be, and I didn't enjoy it. And so this internship, we had the kind of unique opportunity to really, we let them set itineraries. We let them, do all of the outreach, all of the visits by themselves. Some of it, we gave them some scripts and some things to talk about, line sheets, some literature. We gave them the accounts, maybe even some contacts, but that he was the one that made the calls and developed those relationships. And by the end of the summer, I think was very pleased. I was very pleased. He opened up 9 new accounts. So, fantastic job. I don't know if he gave himself enough credit because, the one thing that he kept saying was, I wish I knew product. If I knew product, man, I would really be able to kill it. And so to your question about what do you need to know coming into this job, a willingness to just to try something different, not knowing that he would even like it. He took it, kind of by the horns, and he was really successful. He really tried really hard, and so it paid off. He opened 9 accounts, but our new people, a lot of it is we will train them. If you're willing to learn, we'll give you the product knowledge specific to your territory and your accounts. But it's something where, what I tell our salespeople is the first year, I don't expect you to sell anything. And they sort of look at me confused. And I expect you to sell yourself, and I expect you to learn about our customers. That's it. That's it. Take the pressure off yourself. You don't know our company yet. You don't know what you don't know. And so that year is a chance for you to kind of get your feet underneath of you. Sell yourself. You know yourself the best. So we sell what we know. And so sell yourself, build that relationship, and then we'll have plenty of time to learn product. We'll have plenty of time for you to become an expert in these areas. But the first year, really just sell yourself. And I think that the intern took that to heart. He built some relationships, and he connected enough for these customers to trust that RGA is a company that they want to do business with in the future. Not knowing anything about our company, he was able to set up nine new accounts. So I thought that was very impressive. I tried to tell him how well he did, but like I said, he was kind of beating himself up, that he wanted to. He really wished he knew product to back it up. And I said, I hate the fact that you're here for all the hard work. You're kind of climbing the mountain, and you don't get to kind of reap the rewards of all your hard work after this. So, I tried to convince him to drop out of school and come work for us, but he declined. He must love Texas A&M so much that he wanted to finish school.
I see. Yeah, some people just have warped ways of thinking about things.
Right?
You can't help them.
I know.
No, that's exciting. And so if I'm a young person, I can come in, and if I'm curious, if I'm willing, you can give me enough runway and enough support to help me be successful.
Yeah, a couple things. Absolutely. We one thing that we've learned is people want a rotational introduction to your company, and so that's something we've started quite a bit now. So we have it in multiple locations, that they get a chance to learn our shop operations. That's kind of where it starts. Our inside sales, how our inside sales role is different than our outside sales role. They get to do ride-alongs with outside salespeople. They get to sit and kind of shadow our inside salespeople, and they can learn through all that. And then they sort of have an informed way to make a decision of, I think this is a role that's best for me. I think this role really interests me. That's what I'd like to kind of have a plan to get to that role, once I get through the basic training. So I think one thing that that sets RGA apart from others is that we're employee owned. And so we're willing to put the time into our employees. They're the owners of our company. And so, we have a couple layers of support. Obviously I'm in the corporate office here in Little Rock, Arkansas, but each of our branch locations has branch managers, operations managers, inside salespeople, outside salespeople, shop fabricators that are all there. And I think what sets us apart being in an employee-owned company is that you have coworkers that are probably more willing, hopefully more willing than others, to it's in their best interest that you be great at your job, because we have a shared interest that what sets an ESOP company apart, an employee stock ownership plan, is what ESOP stands for. We're all pulling the rope the same way, because we're all going to benefit from our stock price increasing, due to our hard work. So I think there's some there's hopefully more of that with an ESOP company. We tend to have a lot of people that are willing to train their future replacement because they know that their future, basically wealth building and retirement, is tied into them being successful. And so hopefully that's a philosophy that's maybe you know hopefully I would hope it's better in an ESOP company, but it feels like our people that have been here for 20 and 30 and 40 years have really embraced the younger people that we brought on board because they know that's the future of our company.
Yeah. If I were a young person and I were interested in RGA and I wanted to demonstrate that I was the best fit, that you didn't even need to look at anybody else, that what would I do to show you, to convince you, to demonstrate to you that I'm the right person for this job?
I think probably a couple ways. We have some programs where I mentioned we do the rotational training, and it may not be in the city that you live in now, or maybe the city that you're from. And so if you're really willing to train at one of our maybe our best training grounds or locations, that really sets you up for success because you take that knowledge from that. It's a very positive environment. It's very well staffed. It has a lot of people that are really good at promoting people from within. If you're willing to go to one of these stores for a year or two to learn, and then maybe get to the destination that you most desire, those people are wildly successful because they've seen the best way that one of our stores should operate, and they take that to the location that they go to, and they can really be successful. Another one is internships. We offer operational project based sales internships. So at the job fairs and things where we promote our company, we have flyers, we have things on our website about our internships, open jobs at all of our locations. So if they're curious about a role with RGA, it kind of starts with a conversation about, I want to make sure they understand what the role entails, what the training process can be. We lay out the training program for people, and it can be accelerated, by the amount of things that they can retain and the things that if they pick up things quickly, we can move on to the next step. So, kind of having a conversation with one of the departments. We typically have an operations, maybe we have a new hire, HR, myself at some of the job fairs. And so they have a wide variety of perspectives and departments that they can talk to understand maybe where they think they want to start. But we post jobs internally before we post them externally. So we want people internal to our company to be able to get those opportunities at other locations or new locations.
Okay. And what are some of the biggest obstacles that somebody starting in this career might run into?
Patience. Uh, this is not a job that it's not a get rich quick scheme, which some people think. They don't understand what an ESOP is. They hear the fact that our stock price has increased a couple $100 over the last couple of years, and it's almost too good to be true. And so they try to rush themselves, maybe, or they think it maybe should go faster, and it's just not. Probably with any job, it takes time to get used to not only the company, the culture, but how the different departments that we offer. If you want training in those departments, that could be 2 years. If you truly want a rotational kind of education training, we don't want to rush that. We have a breakdown of each department and what the skills, abilities that you have to master before you sort of move on to the next phase. And so for us, it's all about, you hear the process, you hear, trust the process, be patient with the process. But Usually it's because they want to rush it, and maybe steps are skipped. Um, uh, and so, usually it's that, it's that point that they want to rush through the process instead. And the people that really do take their time and fully understand it are the ones that, as it pertains to technical sales, are successful quicker. They're the ones that understand, why is it important for me to spend time with our shop fabricators? Okay, it's important because I need to know what we stock. I need to know how long it takes to fabricate this hose assembly, so that when I'm in front of my customer, or they call me in the middle of the night and they say, I need this right now, our technical salespeople can say, hey, these are the steps it takes to make whatever you just asked for. And those can't be shortened. It's going to take 6 hours to fabricate this hose. It's going to take, I can't get it to you right now because of this. And so if they don't have that knowledge, they can't, for the customer, they can't be, um, they can be much more. I think they can earn that trust quicker with the knowledge that they have. And so for us, that takes time, and there's no substitute for that.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, you use the word patience, but I'm wondering, or impatience rather. That. Uh, but I wonder if it might also be like ego, right? I mean, what's driving the impatience? Is it that, okay, I'm just really impatient. I'm a little greedy. I want it now. I want to win. I want the commission. I want the money. Or is it, my ego? Like I want to, yeah, I know you're telling me that it takes this long for other people, but I'm a very special person. I'm me after all, and I want to get out there and
Right.
do more and do better. Or maybe something else entirely. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it can play into it. Um, I think we assume a lot. We assume I have this education, I've had this job. And so, not knowing exactly what you do as a company, but I feel like I can be successful. And so, like I said, it starts with a conversation. If you don't fully understand what we do, then how can you be so confident that you can be this successful this fast? And so, I think that's where, some of the training that we offer maybe not exposes, but maybe shed some light on some of the things that they may not know. And like I mentioned, the way that we do things, and I think that's why our sales internship is so important, is that we don't operate outside sales the same way as maybe other companies. So for our outside salespeople, they don't generate quotes, they don't generate orders. That's our inside sales roles job. And so we keep our outside salespeople, basically, they're like a local remote person. They don't come to the office except for maybe 2 times a week. They're constantly in front of customers. While other companies, you might be responsible for putting together the presentation or putting together the bid or the quote. Our people don't do that. Our outside sales people gather the information, they send it to our inside sales group, who is then responsible for entering it into our ERP. And so there's things like that are not unique to RGA, but maybe it's a different way, and they may assume outside sales. I've done that in my past. My degree is in, I may have a minor in technical sales, and I feel like that's the role I want to go straight into. And not to say they can't get there, but it may not be exactly what they've heard in school, or exactly like the previous role that they had. So I think, having some patience to get through that process, to understand, like I said, the company, the culture, how we go about servicing our customers. If you can understand that, I think that those are the people that probably are the most successful.
Well, I guess at a more micro level, I mean, that's what we need them to do in the sales process anyway, right? That, hey, you're asking great questions, you're doing this discovery process, and you're going to hear a problem, and you know what that means, you know how to solve it, it's costing them time and money. I mean, if you've been doing this for any length of time, you can jump way ahead, and I'm even willing to grant that in many cases the salesperson will be right. It's not that they're rushing to conclusions and they're being impulsive and they're wrong. Like, no, just because you've worked with so many clients, you've solved so many problems, and hey, when somebody says this, it's going to be costing at least this much money, it's going to be costing this much time. but you still have to shut up and you still have to ride out the process a little bit longer and ask a few more questions. And always try to get the students to realize, we're asking questions. The obvious answer of why are we asking questions is so we can understand, and that's true. But at some point you probably are the expert and you probably understand before they even answer the question. And so you keep asking these questions, and it can feel very inauthentic or theatrical. Oh, I'm just going through these motions and putting on this performance. Well, yeah, you sort of are, because we have to bring the customer along with us in this process. It is about knowing, you have to know, but it's about them connecting the dots along with you, so that when you say, hey, here's what a solution looks like, they're not going, yeah, the dots are not connected for me. So,
Right.
I guess we have micro patients and macro patients.
Absolutely.
Interesting. This one of our large scale research projects that we kind of run every year is the Sales Performance Consortium, and we look at salesperson competencies. And actually, we have some things that are long term orientation and persistence, but I wonder if there's another way to look at it and tap into it if we start using this word patience, which is very similar. But we like to ask about, I'm willing to sacrifice something now for a bigger benefit later. I'm always planning for the long term. But yeah, patience is related, but maybe different. I might have to. You may have just given me some homework, so thanks for that.
Yeah. I mean, the people that want to rush out there, I think, have a longer hill to climb, and I think they don't. Of course, none of us, especially being younger, none of us believe that. We have our own things made up on our own minds. But you're right. The people that that take the time to really be fully, I would say, well-rounded as they prepare to go to outside sales. Those are the people that maybe don't get frustrated as easy, because the people that assume that they know the job or know the process, when it doesn't go the way that they assumed it would go, I think that's where the frustration builds, and then they want to jump ship because it's not going the way that they thought it would go. And so if you can work through, and maybe, I think one thing that we've realized is we need to be very transparent with what are the different topics that you need to master or understand. And I think for us, that's helped people understand all the things that we want to go through, we want to train on, we want to make sure you understand. And I think transparency in that, instead of just assuming that they know what we're going to be talking about, I think if they have a checklist to go through and they can actually show they've mastered some of these things, it helps us all understand that, okay, they're ready to go to the next step. And I think that has stopped a little bit of the, the impatience to say, I want to jump to the next step, not knowing what the next steps really are. It's helped us really formalize that. And so the people that can get through that, maybe they get some wins early on, where the people that maybe don't fully understand it struggle. And then the disappointment sets in and they feel like maybe they're in the wrong spot. So I think probably you're right. If they take the time to really properly be prepared, they're going to get some wins early, and it's going to really maybe resonate as a, feelings of I like this job, I'm good at this job, I've been successful. So
yeah. Now I have a question I wanted to ask. It might be similar to what I've already asked, but I wonder if phrasing it this way might lead to something slightly different. And it is, I wonder if you can tell us the difference between somebody who's pretty good, really good, somebody that you'd say, yeah, they're no risk of wanting to get rid of them. They're hitting quota, they're doing fine, they're good, but they're not great. What are the things that separate the person that's satisfactory from the person who makes you go, oh wow, that guy's a star?
yeah, for me, I get questions from our sales team all the time, and inevitably I have follow-up questions. They may call and say, we have a problem with this gasket. Okay, so what are the things? What's the situation right now? What's the problem? The people that are good can answer my questions. The people that are just okay cannot answer anything about the application, the customer, the problems in the past, what have they tried. So for me, it's the people that are great in this industry, and probably in sales in general, are they know the full picture of what's going on with the customer. The people that are just what I call order takers, account man, I would call it more of an account manager, where you're just sort of checking in, you're maybe putting stuff on the shelf, you're asking, do you need anything, instead of, being more of a solution based, consultative seller. The people that are there to understand, okay, I understand your problem. This is where you're buying it. This is the problem that you're having with it. This is where you want to go with it. So whenever I get the salespeople on our team that can answer those questions, I know those are the people that are going to be the most successful. That are going to be, like you said, there's people that are, they're meeting minimum. They're meeting budget, but the people that really are successful with us are able to answer all those questions. And it tells me that they're very much, they're really good at communication. They're really good at seeing a big stepping back and seeing the bigger picture of where this product fits in the larger process of the customer. And then once they do that, they're able to communicate what the solution needs to be, and also the details of what we need to figure out internally to be able to create that solution.
Okay. Do you guys do any team selling or group selling, or is it really everybody's an individual contributor?
I would say that the only time that we would do group selling would be whenever there's a project that maybe does need maybe different departments, maybe some outside engineering work or help from a vendor. But for the most part, our salespeople are the ones that are uh, they're doing the selling, unless it needs to be kind of escalated to a different department or support level.
Gotcha. And I'm keeping an eye on the clock here and trying to think what the last question or two should be that I ask. I do like to know if there is, I used to always ask, are there any books that every sales leader needs to have on their shelf and needs to read? But, I think it's wise to broaden it to content, any content, book or an article or a newsletter or a podcast, or, and I'm not fishing, a movie, something
Yeah.
that any sales leader or somebody moving into a sales leadership role should be exposed to help them be even more successful.
I think it depends on the person, but I would say, to your point, be open to different avenues of sales experience or training. So, for example, there's plenty of movies out there where the people have required their sales team to watch, because it shows that the team works together to get something accomplished, and that's really for us, it's very much teamwork. Like I said, our outside salespeople rely on our inside sales team, who relies on our shop fabricator. So, not one person in our company can do everything. But I think there's definitely value in understanding different techniques, or maybe different philosophies. Um, and I won't name specifics, but I think as you get more experience, you feel like I know it, and I don't need any outside influence. And we've recently taken on some training, and I think our most experienced people are struggling the most with it, is because it's different. And I've been successful. Why do I need this new process, or why do I need this new questioning strategy? And so I would just say, be curious to, if it's a short sales program, or, kind of what I tell our salespeople is, you don't have to sell like I would sell, but you have to take bits and pieces from all these different people or experiences or training, and you have to make it into your own. And so you don't have to talk like me, but you do have to put it, whatever it is, into your own way of communicating. But you have to have a general openness to listening, and understanding, and it may be something, and it could be industry specific. Um, our customers tend to be, they're very blue collar, salt of the earth, maintenance groups. But we work all the way up to location managers, purchasing, C-suite type stuff. If it escalates to that level, but for the most part, we're dealing with people that you have to have a relationship aspect to your sales process, but there has to be a professionalism to take care of the customer, and to get done what you need to get done. And so, if you can blend all those together, I feel like that's where the most successful people can be. They're sort of chameleons. They can change for the moment. They can adapt on their feet. They're okay being uncomfortable for the most part, and not where it's a bad thing. It's just the fact that you may walk into a sales call and it might go a totally different direction than what you had planned, and that's not always a bad thing. So,
yeah, today is actually the first face-to-face lab day of the semester for our students, and so we are doing all of this, having all these conversations about being uncomfortable, and this is where you learn, and even things like some of the stuff we just needed to try on for size, so to speak, right? You say, oh, that's not how I would say it. That's I don't really feel comfortable saying it that way. I said, well, if you're 50 and you've been doing this a little while, you get to say that. But you're
right.
20, and you might feel comfortable with something that's just wrong, and we've all been there. Hey, doing it the right way just isn't quite my style. Well, we don't care. We need you to try it and see, and hopefully, you can, we can help you convince yourself of the wisdom of doing it the way we want you to do it. But
right.
yeah, it's always an interesting process to watch behavioral change. It's pretty tricky, but
yeah.
And these are newbies. I mean, yeah, once you have a couple decades of experience, good luck.
Yes, that's right.
You gotta have a little electroshock machine or something,
That's right. You do.
Get them out of those habits. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Like hearing more about RGA, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys, I guess, near the end of October. So
absolutely, we'll be on campus a couple times.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll see you in a bit. That's it for this interview. I hope you got something valuable out of it. Of course, if you did, be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast on whatever app you use to listen. Also, share this with your colleagues and friends, and let's continue to have a deeper discussion on all things related to selling and sales leadership. See you next time in the Sales Lab.